Yeah, hi there, and I just got your comments at my YouTube channel. It was a video that I did. One of my students at California State University, San Bernardino, completed an integrated speaking practice test, and I was giving comments to the student. And then you wrote a comment underneath the video. You said, do you think preparing TOEFL is a waste of time because TOEFL doesn't require real-life English? Good question. This is a very good question. Now, there's a debate about whether or not the TOEFL actually tests real-life English situations. We know the TOEFL is an exam to help determine the academic English language proficiency of students who want to matriculate into universities that speak English. Am I right? Now, what if we turn the tables here a little bit? What if I said this? What if I said you should use real-life English to prepare for the TOEFL exam? So I think it is not a waste of time. If you prepare for the TOEFL by not using a TOEFL book, by not going to TOEFL cram schools, but if you prepare for the TOEFL by using real-life English, it is definitely not a waste of time. And guess what? You can do two things if you approach your TOEFL study this way. This is exactly what I try to get my students to consider with their study patterns, is to think about not the TOEFL exam necessarily, but think about how they can improve their vocabulary, their pronunciation, their grammar, their listening, reading, writing, and speaking proficiencies without focusing exclusively on a TOEFL book or exclusively in a TOEFL cram program. So what I'm trying to say here is to think about the most important aspects of your English as a second language study and to focus more on the big picture without exclusively focusing on the TOEFL exam necessarily. Okay, so what is real life English? What if, to prepare for the TOEFL exam, you started reading newspapers, but you read newspapers and you read topics in which you had an interest? What if you were reading magazines to learn information about something? What if you're reading books, fiction or nonfiction, again, topics in which you have an interest? Think about that. If you start reading on a regular basis, right, and let's say you read from 30 to 45 minutes a day, even though it's not TOEFL reading materials, you're improving your concentration, you can even improve your reading speed, you're coming into contact with a lot of vocabulary, so a lot of good things are happening by just practicing reading on a daily basis. And this has really nothing to do with the TOEFL exam other than you're just getting used to reading in English. Or, what if? What if you wanted to improve your listening comprehension abilities for the TOEFL exam, but you didn't use a TOEFL book? What if you did like one of my students did? I have a student from Saudi Arabia a couple years back. His name is Sultan. And when he came into the intensive English program at California State University, I asked him, I said, hey, why is your speaking, why is your pronunciation so clear? I've noticed that you're speaking more fluently, you're speaking with a much higher level of pronunciation, even your vocabulary and your grammar is higher. What did you do? How did you get to the point to where you speak so proficiently? You know what he told me? He watched a lot of movies in English back in his country in Saudi Arabia. That's real English, right? So guess what? He took the TOEFL test. He got a very high score in the speaking section. Are you surprised? So he's actually using real-life English to prepare. You can say that you can use real-life English to prepare for the TOEFL exam. You see what I'm saying? So to answer your question, I think, without getting too wordy here, and I have a tendency to go on and on and on, let's look at your question one more time and I'll give you an answer. Do you think preparing for the TOEFL is a waste of time because the TOEFL doesn't require real-life English? Okay. If you spend 100% of your time exclusively focusing on the TOEFL, just by reading TOEFL books, by going to TOEFL cram schools, and by taking TOEFL practice tests, if that is all of your English study, yes, then it's a waste of time. That's probably not going to benefit you that much for your real-life English abilities. However, If when you're preparing for the TOEFL exam, if you focus your energies appropriately, it's not a waste of time. So what do I mean? 80% of your time, here's my recommendation, spend about 80% of your time using real-life English to get ready for the TOEFL exam. Here's what I consider real-life English. Students who want to do better on the speaking section of the exam, they should practice speaking to native speakers for several months, even for several years, if they want to get a high score on the speaking section of the exam. That's real-life English. Do you see what I'm saying? So if these students who are preparing for the TOEFL exam, if 80% of their study or what they're doing is focusing on real-life English activities, then it's not a waste of time. If they're focusing maybe 20% of their energy using TOEFL books or TOEFL cram schools, and that's all, only 20%, then I don't think it's a waste of time. Alright, so that would be my answer to your question. By the way, I am Michael Buckhoff. I am the founder, owner, and the materials writer for the online TOEFL course, the 7-step system to pass a TOEFL IBT. And my online TOEFL course does not exclusively focus on TOEFL practice tests, the TOEFL exam, or exactly TOEFL type materials. I have a lot of great lessons in my course. My approach is kind of reflecting some of your philosophies. Is my students, they practice building the vocabulary, pronunciation, grammar, reading, listening, writing, and speaking. They work on a lot of different things over an extended period of time, and by doing that, the real focus of my course is to develop students' academic English language abilities and to help them use English professionally, academically, and even socially. So an indirect result of my course is they get a high TOEFL score because they have improved their English, academic English abilities. But once they're done taking the TOEFL test, my students continue in the long term to have very strong English language proficiency abilities. You see what we're saying? Anyway, thank you for your comments, and if you have any other questions, feel free to comment. If anybody else watching this video, if you have a good comment on this, here's the question before us. Is preparing for the TOEFL a waste of time because the TOEFL doesn't require real-life English? So if you want to make a comment in response to that question, you can certainly put your comment after this video. All comments are welcome, positive and negative, but just be nice. No swearing, don't be crazy, but definitely you can express whatever your opinion is regarding this answer, regarding this question.